We are live. Hello, hello, everyone. Good evening. How is everybody doing? And welcome again to another chapter or another program. We are, for the ones that don't know it, but are going to be joining later, we are following the information of my book, Alchemy for the Soul. And today we have a juicy topic, as Janet says it every week. It's called the triangulation. Janet usually comes and help me a little bit here, but she is getting beautified because we are going to Egypt and she is in the salon and maybe she wasn't ready or maybe the time wasn't enough. But anyways, I'm here and we will be talking about our topic tonight, which is the energy of the triangulation within the family system. So we will be talking about what triangulation is and how it happens within the family system and how it affects the whole members of the system. Because there are certain dynamics that are learned at home and maybe we are not aware of them, but they are affecting us. So welcome, welcome to our program number 29 this week. And I'm so glad that I'm here and that you are also here being able to listen to this information. So our topic again is going to be the triangulation tonight. And maybe if you have hearts of you have certain issues with your relationships, especially maybe partnering, maybe this is a topic that can bring you some light about what is happening in your life that you haven't maybe seen from this angle of the picture, because sometimes we don't think that maybe the memories from our childhood or what we experience at home is affecting us in such a way. But that's why I'm here for to somehow show you how those dynamics of what you got to see and hear and feel when you were a child and how your ancestors also had these dynamics is still somehow repeating today in your own relationships. So I invite you to say hi if you are around. Welcome, welcome. I see some people is already joining us. So thank you for being here. I see people here in Instagram and I see some people on YouTube. So welcome, welcome. I guess it's time to begin. Before I begin, I have some announcements. We will be going to Egypt, so we don't know about how transmitting from Egypt will be, and also because of the time. So we are not sure yet if we will be here next week, but we are going to try at least. So we will let you know. For now, that's it. And so let's begin. I guess we are ready to get into or dig into our topic today, which is triangulation. So let's talk a little bit about the dynamic of triangulation. How is it that it happens? What is the triangulation or how that happens? See, so there is a triangle and maybe two of those pieces of the triangle somehow alienate and they exclude the other one. And this dynamic happened also when we were children, maybe at home. So all of these things that I will be talking today, just check and see if they apply for you, or maybe when you were a child and it happened maybe between you, parents and siblings, or between the siblings, because that happens, that dynamic can happen between any of the members of the system. So let's say that I'm going to just give you an example here. Let's say, and it is said because I hear this in family constellations a lot. Let's say that someone comes and says, well, my mom had a favorite one, and that was my brother. And so I felt like my mom and my brother were like very aligned, and then I always felt excluded or rejected by them. Or let's say that the father with the daughter somehow alienate, and maybe they left out the wife. So the wife somehow felt excluded. So this is a dynamic of three people, right? Where two alienate and one feels excluded. Or somehow these two alienate and reject this one. So this one, of course, feel like it's not part of it. See? And so how these dynamics can affect us today, or our relationships today. Because this could have happened when we were children, and maybe today the same sort of story is happening, maybe between me and my daughter, or me and my son, or me and my wife, or my husband. And so it is important to recognize that those dynamics were learned at home, and that our life today and our relationships are a projection of those that I had at home when I was a child. And so let's talk a little bit more about this one. So when a triangulation happens, it usually involves exclusion. Exclusion means that they too alienate and they don't like me. So how do this person feel rejected by these two? When this energy happens, it creates conflict. Conflict between the one who feels excluded and the other two who alienate, who maybe think that this one is not right. I'm going to give here an example. Let's say that the mother says that the father is not a good husband because abandoned the house, or because he drinks, or because infidelity, anything. So let's say that this daughter, right? There are three here. This is a family. And let's say that the mother and the daughter alienate and they exclude the father. So this is a triangulation. The mother is loyal. I mean, the daughter is loyal to the mother and somehow excludes the father because the mother doesn't like the father. So when this dynamic happens, maybe eventually in the future, right, this daughter is going to find a partner kind of like the father because it's the one that I'm rejecting. And remember that what I exclude or what I reject persists in showing again. So it is an invisible loyalty. It is an invisible loyalty to attract the same because somehow this person belongs to that system and needs to be included, no matter what this person did or how this person thinks or how this person behaves, because all of the rejection happens because of the perspective of one of these two that doesn't like this one, and then this one alienates with this one and they exclude this one. See? So that dynamic is the one creating conflict, and it all begins by the perspective of one of those two. And usually, if this happens between, let's say, the mother and the daughter, or the mother and the son, excluding the father, then this father somehow needs to turn around and leave, right? Because these two are rejecting. And this creates abandonment, for example, or betrayal. That's when the energies of betrayal and abandonment begin. Because one of these pieces that is being rejected, also rejection is involved here, leaves, right? And then this one is complaining. It's like, see, it's like, let's say, I'm confirming that I'm right, that this person abandons or that this person betrays. And so this created an energy of conflict. Because then this daughter or this son, right, who is believing the mother, is not going to like the father. And so these are the type of dynamics that we see at home. And how is this going to be reflected when, let's say you have a new family? So maybe when you have a new family, this same dynamic can happen again. And this is an unconscious dynamic that we barely get to see, but it happens very often. Also, it can happen because there is a period in the development of the children when the children, let's say, get fascinated by, let's say, this has to do a little bit with the complexes of Oedipus and Electra. When the child, like the boy falls in love, let's say, with mom, and this child wants to be with mom, but not with dad. And so when the mother allows this, creates, let's say, a sort of a dynamic of separation that can also affect the relationship between this couple, because this child is somehow interfering because the mother is allowing this boy to interfere in that relationship. And it's because this boy wants all the love of mom only for me. Hmm? And so this starts creating separation, and eventually that will create a conflict between the mother and the father. See how that works? And this is very, like, you cannot even see it sometimes, but it also depends on the consciousness of the parents to see this sort of dynamics at home. When we talk about systemic order, because that's what we are talking today about, systemic order. We are in chapter number 2. We are talking about the order of hierarchy, and this information is all based on family constellations. So we are working on how do I keep or I recreate the order in my family system so it won't affect me, let's say, negatively. So how can I do that? If I'm a parent, let's say, and I do have a child that wants to interfere in a relationship as a couple, then maybe I could be that one that can say, but mom came first or dad came first. And that simple wording, just for you to say, yes, I love you, son, or I love you, daughter, but your mother came first or your father came first, and we do love you a lot. And that is your place, and this is our place. So it all depends on how conscious you are to keep that order. That order can be recreated by just holding the energy and the vibration in the system of who belongs and what is the positionment of all the right positionment of all the members of the system. As we talked before, in the systemic order, the ancestors come first, and then the parents, and then the children, and then the grandchildren, right? But sometimes in this triangulation dynamics, sometimes the children, when feels like I need the attention of my mom, or I need the approval of my mom, or of my dad, somehow they get interfered in that relationship and gets in the middle, and that the conflict begins there. Hmm? So let's go to the book and see what the book says about triangulation. So for the ones following the information, we are on page number 146. And again, if you haven't purchased the book, you can find it in Amazon and in paper version, or also in Kindle. So as Janet says, she's not here today, but I'm going to say that she says it, buy the book. This book has got 7 steps for you to transcend all of those memories of your past and your ancestors' past that can be affecting you today, how to create order, systemic order, based on family constellations. See, we need to do some inclusions, we need to recreate the order of the system, and we need also to create equilibrium between giving and receiving. Those are the 3 principles of Per Hellinger and family constellations. And today we are talking about systemic order and how, when the triangulation happens, create disorder in the system. Make sense? All right, so for the ones following, let's go to page number 146. And it says, another common disorder is called the triangulation. Triangulation happens when, as in the case of a lover of a mistress, who enters to play a role in the system, but it can happen energetically between members of the same family system, like between parents and children. See, so the dynamic that sometimes we see of, let's say, infidelity or betrayal when someone else comes in the scene, somehow was learned at home. If maybe my parents didn't do it, maybe you saw it in your grandparents. but we learn the triangulation because it's a memory and energy that has been applying until we don't recognize it, identify it, recognize it, and liberate it. We cannot change that reality, right? So it says like this. In this dynamic, the exclusion comes into play too. And this is how it happens. We all have heard the old saying of boys belong to moms and girls belong to dads. Have you heard that? I think that's very common here. We hear that in English, and I also have heard that in the Spanish community. Well, this saying needs a lot of observation because this can generate conflict and dysfunction in the relationships between parents and children. And it can also create conflict in the future relationships of the children when they are adults with their partners. See, so we want to create this order for our children to, let's say, relate differently than maybe we did or our parents did. When children are between the ages of 3 to 5, they fall in love with their parents. Mom is boy and dad is girl, the famous Oedipus and Electra's complexes. It is a natural stage of growth. Yes, it is a natural state of growth. However, when this state doesn't transition organically, the children remain attached to the parents energetically. See, all of the things that I'm talking about today happens at an energetic level. We don't see it sometimes because it's almost invisible, but it's happening energetically. All of these attachments are happen energetically. Physically, it kind of shows, but energetically, they create the attachments. Hmm? So let's say the daughter wants daddy's full attention and the son wants mommy's attention. When parents don't see or are not aware of the importance of keeping the healthy order in their relationship with their children, the family system is affected and all the members of the system get affected by that. When dad tells the girl, for example, you are the most important in my life, or you are the number one, or my number one, this girl feels entitled and energetically takes mom's place. See, I'm going to repeat this. When the father allows that daughter to say, yes, I'm your queen, right? Somehow energetically, this daughter feels entitled to take mom's place. How is this going to affect this girl, for example, in the future? Unconsciously, this creates an attachment of the daughter with the father. I'm going to be loyal to you, that, and an exclusion of the mother energetically. Again, all of these dynamics, because I'm going to repeat it over and over, happen at an unconscious level and it is energetic. When the mother is not honored in her rightful place by the father, this creates a systemic disorder. Sometimes when people come to constellate, do a therapy, a family constellations therapy, usually I ask them about their parents. And usually maybe the mother, or maybe this person who comes to constellate, let's say it's a woman, and she says, well, I used to have an amazing relationship with my father. And what about your mother? With my mother, not so much. See, so you can really say that this daughter has a conflict with mom. It could be a sort of a competition. There is a competition for that place, for that attention, for that love. And that somehow needs to be recreated by the father who can say, yes, I love you, daughter, but this is your mother. And energetically, you create that order to vibrate from that order. That's how you create order, by vibrating from that order. If this father, let's say, is very alienated with the daughter, this daughter, when she grows up, is going to look for the father, for a husband, kind of like the father. See, it's like I'm looking for my father in my husband. And this relationship, of course, is not going to be a healthy relationship for that daughter because somehow that daughter is looking for her dad. And this relationship won't be a couple relationship, will be more of a daughter and father relationship. Also, this daughter might have a lot of issues finding a husband because no one can be as good as my dad. See? And when that happens, well, it's going to be very difficult for any man to fulfill the expectations of this woman who is looking for a man that cannot be better than the father, but can be that husband. See? And so that's how this daughter is going to have a lot of issues finding a partner. Hmm? Also, this can happen the same way, but opposite. Let's say that the mother alienates with the son and they somehow exclude the father. So this son is going to have a lot of issues in his relationships as well. Because let's say this son unconsciously becomes loyal to mom. My mom is my number one. My mom is my queen. So those are those that people know as those mama's boys. See that let's say they go outside and look for a lot of girls. I don't want, as we say, I don't want, but they don't commit to any woman because they have their mother as their number one. And you can see in these sort of relationships that, let's say that the mother somehow has a power over this son. So this son is always looking for what mom says, what mom wanted, but no his wife. So Bert Hellinger used to say that this is like marrying someone, and instead of two being in that bed, there is like three, because there are three energies in that bed: the mother, the wife, and this new husband, let's say, right? So this mother hasn't been transcended because the only way to transcend our parents is reconciling the memories of our childhood with them. For example, this one of the complex of Oedipus for the boys, or the complex of Electra for the girls. So if we don't get to transcend that stage organically, we somehow are still wanting to be with mom or dad. See? And so it's a very unconscious, or maybe we're not aware of this, but maybe this can be giving you some sort of light about something that maybe if you have this fascination for mom or for dad. So, and then it's you prioritize somehow what they want, I've, I had a man once here. I'm going to tell you this case because this was very interesting. I had this man, he was in his 50s. And he came to Constellate to have a therapy because he was in his 50s and he used to say, well, I don't know what happens, but I cannot find a woman for me. And he says, I'm a good man. I'm not a womanizer. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm a worker. I'm a good, I'm very responsible. All the things that any woman would want, I still cannot find a woman for me. And he was in his 50s. So I asked him, so who do you live with? And he says, I live with my mom because my mom, my father left her, and then I've been taking care of her since then. And now she's getting old and she needs help. So what is this saying? See, it's already saying that this boy somehow is being loyal to that mom and hasn't been able to cut the cord because the mother didn't cut the cord, because the mother somehow has this dependency on this son. This son somehow needs to pay back for what she did, let's say. And this sort of alienation happened, the exclusion of the father, the father wasn't good in this relationship. Let's say he abandoned the mother. So he becomes the husband energetically of his mother. See? And then not only that, but at the same time, when the mother becomes like, older, eventually this man will become like his father, like the father of the mother. And that is a disorder. See how this simple dynamic that happened and didn't transition organically eventually can create these sort of conflicts. So this man couldn't find a woman, and he did the constellation work. He still really wasn't sure about what I'm saying, but he took some steps in understanding at least the dynamic that he was experiencing and why he was in that position and why he couldn't find a woman for him. The same case, I have seen it also with women. See, women who, not only with the father, also with the mother, because the daughter can also maybe, this woman that came to also have a session on family constellations, she said that I cannot find a partner. And so I talked to her a little bit about what happened in her past when she was a child. And she said, well, my father wasn't able to provide for the house. And so I had to work to help my mother and to help my siblings. So somehow she took the role of the father. And somehow the mother was dependable of this daughter, emotionally and also financially. So the mother became older and she became then, let's say, not only, like, let's say the transition was from the energetic father of the family, who was the oldest daughter with this mother. And eventually, as the mother got older, this daughter became, let's say, a parent of her own mother. So she couldn't find a partner on her own because she already had a family to provide and to take care of emotionally and financially. See how these dynamics of triangulation happen and people don't understand, why am I living this experience? And sometimes it's good to stop and question yourself, but what is happening, right? Because if you want to experience, let's say, a relationship and you have some issues that you haven't been able to solve with your parents, maybe that's the root cause of conflict. So I'm here just to remind you of this possibility of recreating the systemic order, and also to reconcile mom and dad in order for you to put that order and liberate yourself to make it differently. That's pretty much why I'm here sharing this information. All I want is you to understand that until we don't, let's say, cut the cord with our parents, and that forgiveness, that is not understanding that they did the best they could, but feeling with compassion that they had issues that they couldn't solve, but I'm not supposed to carry that. But I can take responsibility of my part and what I'm seeing that is not in order. So I can recreate that order that can facilitate the ones that will be coming, my own reality. And of course, when we liberate the ancestors, we can recreate the past, our ancestors' past. They didn't have this information. They didn't know how to do this, but you now are listening to this information. So maybe this information can bring you some light on how you can create systemic order for the whole system to flow organic. Should we continue? If you have any comments, welcome to put them here. I know someone is saying there, I don't understand English. I know. If you wanna come on Thursdays, I do the same in Spanish. I happened to say it happened last night that I had someone say, so what about English? And that would happen yesterday. I said, no, it's tomorrow. So we are switched. So Sean, hi Sean. She said my grandmother was 14 years old when she gave birth to my mother. My mom had her own trauma. Yes, but this trauma doesn't, well, yes, your mom had her own trauma, but it doesn't really have to do with the systemic order of triangulation that we are talking about here today. But yes, definitely, if your grandmother was 14, maybe she wasn't mature enough. And so your mother maybe went through an experience of, it's like two children trying to grow together. And of course, that's very difficult because grandma is not ready to be mature enough to um, give the affection or the attention or the love that this child needed. See, and so maybe your mom somehow have been looking for that sort of love as well. And I also am asking you, so what happened here with grandpa? What happened in this story that you're telling us here with grandpa? Because another self, someone is talking here about another self. Yes, that's the series, Netflix series is called Another Self. I'm not talking about that today, but I'm talking about ancestral memories and how they affect us and how the disorder in the system is affecting our present relationships. Now, if you want to, for the people who are listening here that haven't been able to see this series, I do highly recommend it. It's called Another Self in Netflix, and it's a must watch so you can understand how the dynamic of family constellations can help you and can help recreate the order and reconcile all of those unresolved memories of the past. And by the way, here in my YouTube channel, I left a systemic analysis of the series. So if you go probably, I would say maybe 5 chapters ago, that was about a month ago, I made a systemic analysis of the whole series where you will understand what happened to each of those people in that movie or in that series, and which one was the conflict with each of them, and how were they supposed to reconcile it, and how they did it in their family constellation therapy. So that was beautiful. Thank you for bringing that out, Mandecon. Yes, thank you so much. All right, so let's continue here. So since you came late, we are talking about triangulation, how the issues of triangulation happen and how they can be projected later in our lives. See? If we talk about that theory, maybe Ada had issues with betrayal, right? So betrayal somehow is a sort of a triangulation issue. So you might be saying, but how the dynamic of a triangulation can be similar to the betrayal. There are two people here, and then a third one comes in the scene. Why? Because let's see how this can happen. Let's say that there are a couple here, and let's say that this couple are a new, just married, right? And at the beginning, everything is working well. All of a sudden, let's say that this man hasn't been able to heal or reconcile the past with mom. And let's say that mom comes in the scene, right? In this couple are here, and then the mother comes in the scene, and this son alienates with the mother and excludes the wife. So maybe this wife who has been excluded because maybe this son says, well, I need to, my mom is the best, or my mom is the one that knows, or my mom needs my help, or my mom. So this son hasn't been able to transcend his mother. And when this son hasn't been able to transcend his mother, somehow it's affecting this new relationship, right? At certain point, this wife is going to be, well, if the mother is more important, then I'm going to move away. Or I'm going to go find someone else, right? That can be a partner. Because this son is not really being a husband, but is being a child of his mother. See? And of course, this dynamic, this woman here, I don't need that in my life. I'm looking for a husband, not for a child. And I am not going to be your mother, right? Because this child is waiting, is looking for his mom, again, eventually in this wife. And this wife wants a partnering, not this relationship of a mother and a son. And that happens a lot. I've heard a lot of women saying, "Oh, I became the mother of my husband." Why is that happening, right? That has a root. That is a conflict that has a root that started where I learned that at home. It's a it's an unconscious dynamic of my family system that we didn't get to transcend. But now that you're having this information, maybe you can start paying more attention to those dynamics. How do those dynamics of mom and dad or parents and children happen at home, and how they are affecting me today? You can ask yourself, um, have I really transcended my father, or am I energetically loyal to him? Like my father is the best if I'm a woman, or maybe my mom is the best and my father wasn't. So I'm still alienating with my mother and excluding my father. See, there are a lot of paths that these dynamics can take. It's not only one. It depends on your specific experience with your parents, and how who you were closer to, and how the dynamic developed, and if it got to be over, like if you got to transcend it organically, or just still somehow attached to mom or dad. And if you haven't, well, that's why we do family constellation work, so we can reconcile those memories and liberate our parents with love and with gratitude, and honoring and respecting them with their life, with their stories, with their destiny, right? We want to do it differently, because when we recreate order in the system, then the whole system of life starts like giving a new possibility for the ones coming. Otherwise, the repetitive pattern is going to happen again, and we don't want more of the same, do we? All right, so let's continue. Here we are. So it says, many times this can create states of jealousy in the daughter and in the mother. So let's say that the father is preferring the daughter. So when this happens, the mother feels jealousy even with her own daughter. It's like, I can see that my husband is choosing my daughter before me. And that means that this mother hasn't been honored in her right place. See, in the fire, maybe don't see it. The daughter feels, I'm just like you, mom. So the daughter, instead of being a daughter, becomes the same level as the mother. And so this daughter feels like we are equals. And it's a competition. This is another dynamic that happens in the system. See? And when that happens, conflict is created. And so maybe this daughter and this mother don't get along. And that's going to be recreating more issues in the future, because this daughter is going to look for love. But if I'm not connected to my mom in the right place as a daughter, then I'm not going to be able to find that love, because the mother represents the love to the self, and the father represents the love to others. So if I don't have my right place in the system, and I'm still having conflicts with mom, then love is not self love, and love still, I'm not connected to that energy. And so I'm looking for that love outside of me, but the love is not outside of me. That love is already here, but I don't see it because I have a conflict with my mother, let's say. See? So that's why in family constellations, usually the first thing that we constellate is the mother, because the mother is the one who carries most of the information that we need to solve in all systems, in all our family system. And so let's see what else it says here. So the same scenario also happens with the son and the mother. Watch out, moms, when you tell your son that you are my life, or the man of the house, or you are my everything. This can create conflict. The son, this can create the son to have conflicts in his future relationships with a partner. He becomes a mama's boy. We must be careful not to confuse love by giving excess attention and overprotection towards the child. See, so maybe this is a mother that feels like I'm giving my son love, but that also is a dynamic that sometimes, so when there is excess, something is not healthy. See, some mothers tend to say, "Oh, I gave my son lots of love," but sometimes unconsciously this mother doesn't have it's like I'm giving all of this love, somehow expecting at certain point a return, because it's not a true love. It's based on a dependency, or creating a codependency with this child, and this child doesn't know it because it's a child, but starts carrying somehow that energy of I owe to my mom because my mom took care of me. See, and eventually that is the case when these boys or these children won't be able to find a partner because needs to pay back to mom energetically. It all happens energetically. When I'm talking about this, it all happens energetically. Make sense? Okay, let's continue. So this we must be careful not to confuse love by giving excess attention and overprotection towards the child. When these children grow up, they find it difficult to keep a life partner who is better than their parents. Since they are energetically mama's boy or daddy's girl, they will be looking for their parents in their partner. Energetically, they remain loyal to them, even though they marry and procreate. See, because you might say, oh no, but my son, he found a wife and this and that, and they have children. But energetically, the attachment is there. See, the attachment is there. So they haven't been able to cut that cord because the mother hasn't cut the cord. Usually the mother wants to keep the son here or keep the daughter here. And the father has the energy of, I want to push them so they can live through the world and experience life. But the mother wants the children to stay here, and the father wants them to go and experience life. So that's why the energy of the mother is the one that we need to work a lot with. We as mothers, and also see the relationship between you and your mother. So I had a client that came to Constellate because he couldn't understand. Oh, this is the story I told you at the beginning of the guy who wanted a partner and he couldn't find one. And it was because he was being loyal to his mother. So when I asked him about his mother, he came and said, oh, my little mother, she is so sweet and I have to take care of her. And so this boy could never leave home or could never leave mom, and so these men couldn't find a partner, and that's an invisible loyalty to the mother that affects the possibility for him to find a partner. In the case of the mother-in-law, so the mother-in-law or the father-in-law, when they interfere somehow in that new family, that means that they haven't been able to cut the cord with mom or dad. See, or the daughter or the son, this new relationship haven't been able to transcend their ancestors. And that's why it starts affecting this new relationship here. See? So you look at your story and see what you can identify. That's why I'm here, trying to make you understand or just delivering this information so you can somehow understand better these dynamics, how they happen and how they can be affecting you and your relationships or your possibilities to experience something more harmonious, let's say. Okay, let's see. Um, so in the case of the mother-in-law, the son has challenges in his marriage because of his unconscious bond and sense of obligation to his mother. And this I have seen a lot. It's like, oh, I have this sense of obligation with my mother, and they don't know how to break from it. And when I say this, I don't mean to say I need to abandon or to reject my mother. No, I need to energetically give them their place, and so I can be free to be myself and to choose on my own and to choose a wife before my mother. Because if I have a new family here, I chose to have a new family, and my mom is part of my past already. It becomes an ancestor. But if I allow my mother to interfere in my new relationship, that means that I haven't been able to transcend or somehow heal that relationship with mom. See? Okay, let's see what else it says here. So the mother, when we allow the mother-in-law to interfere or the father-in-law to interfere, still controls and manipulates energetically the son or the daughter to be number one. See, and this all happens energetically. They don't mean to, but it's happening because that's the place the son or the daughter have for these parents. They are my number one. As in the agreement that was made unconsciously when they were a child. So maybe when the mother says, "You are my king," maybe this son, when he is 5 years old, is saying, "Oh my God, my mom is my queen, and I should be loyal to her." So that was an unconscious agreement with mom. And so maybe when he grows up, he will find a princess, but not a queen. See, because queen is already mom. In this case, the wife feels relegated, like she is in second place. Her rightful place as the wife is not being honored in the marriage dynamic. So the wife can feel neglected, and eventually this type of relationship can create the arrival of a lover. See? And that's how the triangulation shows again. And then you are going to blame your partner for infidelity when you don't know that you somehow are doing the same, but with your mom or with your dad. Isn't that insane? Somehow it's insane, isn't it? Or for me, it is when I realized these dynamics in the system, I was like, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. But yes, it happens. So I don't know if you have any comments here or something that you wanna say related to this, or maybe you saw this dynamic in your home. Maybe you saw it with mom and one of your siblings, or maybe it was you and any of your parents. So if so, if you want to share here, welcome, so we can talk about it and share. Remember that what you are sharing here can help us all. So if not, well, then I'm going to make some announcements. I did, Sunshine. So what do you have to say about it? While Sunshine says something here, I want to say that just some announcements for the ones that came late. We will be traveling to Egypt. We're going to Egypt, and I'm going to Turkey right afterwards. So we will be probably 4 weeks without doing these transmissions, but we will be back, and Janet will be back. She's not here tonight. She's getting beautified for our trip because she's coming too. So thank you so much for being so present, and I hope this information about the triangulation somehow can give you a new light for you to observe your own family system and see your own dynamics. Sometimes we have this sort of rejection with one of our parents, at the same time, this invisible loyalty to them. So it's like there is a part of my father or my mother that I'm attached to, but somehow I also reject. See, but then this dynamic somehow is the one affecting your relationships as well. And then until you don't reconcile that sort of dynamic, then you won't be able to transcend it. So you will be somehow experiencing the same sort of dynamics with your partners or with others. Yes, sometimes not only it doesn't have to be necessarily with a partner. Maybe you are in a group and maybe you see yourself that you are friends and maybe two friends alienate and then you feel excluded, or you alienate with one of your friends and you exclude another one. It's exactly the same dynamic that you learned at home. And that's why we have conflicts also between friends, because we have this tendency of alienating against another part. Hmm? And so just see, observe if you have done that, or if you have been the excluded one, then maybe you had that experience of that dynamic of triangulation at home, and you haven't been able to observe that more clear as you might be doing at this moment. Christine is saying, what about sibling conflict affecting system? Christine, we spoke about that last week. I spoke about the dynamics between siblings, and it also happens between siblings. This triangulation also can happen between siblings. Let's say that there are 5 siblings here, and these 2 alienate, and this one is excluded, and these 2 alienate, maybe these 2 against these 2. And that is a sort of a triangulation to all of these dynamics that happen, that where 2 people or 2 members of the system alienate, or 3 against 1, or because you are the black sheep of the family, so you are not welcome here. That is that is a triangulation. They exclude the black sheep, let's say, of the family. That is a triangulation where one of that parts is excluded. 2 or 3 somehow alienate. We are thinking the same, we have the same perspective, and then the other one is not. And so that creates that dynamic as well. So if you want to see a little bit more about the relationship between siblings, I did a whole program last week about relationships, and how the relationships that happened at home with my siblings are affecting my relationships, especially with friends and co-workers and at work, for example. Certain dynamics that happen at work are a projection of what I experience with my siblings at home. And so maybe with the one that you alienate is the one that co-worker that you find that, oh, you just like my sister. So you alienate, and maybe there is a brother that you felt that was against you too, and so maybe you're competing with that one. See, it's the same dynamic as when you were a child and you guys all were siblings, and you had that dynamic at home. So you are reliving the dynamic at work today. Hmm? Sunshine says, she's laughing and she said, just I'm closer with one brother. I'm closer with one brother. And then the other one, somehow you are also. If they excluded you, somehow you also exclude them. So how do you fix this, right? That would be the next question here. And I like this solution, because I don't need to expect them to include me now or to reconcile with them, but I can create the inclusion. I can say I include myself even though you don't include me. And I respect the way you see me and maybe the way you reject me, but I still belong and I include myself. See, so you recreate the order by doing this simple exercise. It's called a systemic exercise, recreating the system by vibrating in the right order of belonging, hierarchy, and equilibrium. See? And you don't have to really say much to them, and maybe you don't have a conflict with them. No, maybe there was not a conflict. But for the ones who had the conflict, you can still do that little exercise, because there are lots of issues with siblings. And just check the last program that I did. It's very interesting to see how it replicates the same story at work. And then maybe say why you don't understand, but why when I'm at work I have these conflicts with certain people. That certain people, if they are not in a higher hierarchy, let's say the boss, then it could be between siblings. Now, if you have issues with your boss, then maybe the conflict is between mom or dad and you as a child. See, it's all a projection. Everything outside of us is a projection of our childhood and how we related when, I was a child at home, and how the whole family behaved. See? So I hope I made myself understandable, or you get to understand these dynamics. And some of them apply and some of them don't. But anyways, I want to just leave the whole information out here for you to think about, think about that one. And maybe it can be helpful somehow. All right, my dears, it was a pleasure to be here again. And I'm sending you tons of love and hugs and blessings. And I hope to see you next time around. I don't know if I will be able to transmit this program from Egypt, but if I can, I will let you know. Well, I wish you could come to Egypt too, but I will enjoy, and I'm going to bring you in my heart so you can also feel the energy that I will be feeling while I'm there. And I will bring tons of that energy so we can share when I come back. All right. Thank you so much for your wishes. And I love you, and I hope to see you next time around. Sending love and hugs to everyone. Bye.